What caused you to want to do this film about her?
Duane approached me shortly after Benazir's murder and mentioned that he would like to proceed with this kind of a documentary. I made it clear I was at that point, no position to talk about it, to think about it. I didn't want Benazir to be exploited, manipulated. I thought she was hurt enough. But he was very persistent week after week, and I finally came to believe that he would do a credible attempt at this story, a fair and balanced piece, and I decided I would cooperate with him.
I knew that I'd had what is basically a documentarian's opportunity or a dream, which is access. And I knew of Mark's very close relationship with the Bhutto family, and knew that it was a story that was unknown here, that only a surface or a superficial knowledge of A, Pakistan, and B, of Benazir, and the amazing first, being the first and to this day only Muslim woman to ever lead a country. The fact that we knew as little as we did about them, and yet it was such an amazing story to me once I did a little bit of research, led me to believe that it was something worth continually banging on Mark's door. And as he said, it's true. He really didn't want to hear anything about it, but he was insistent in his own personal way about being able to bring Benazir's legacy, keep Benazir's legacy alive on talk shows across the country, and I decided to continue to ask him.
Mark, what gave you the confidence that you could get the access you needed to tell the whole story and not just part of the story?
Well, I'm very close to the family. I consider the Bhutto family to be like my family. I think the children and the president and Sonny trusted me, to be fair. I've been working in Pakistan for 25 years, so I know pretty much everyone in politics on all sides of the aisle. And I thought I probably would have the best shot to get that kind of access from all areas of the country.
Yeah, I think, Judy, I think that was pretty much the given that we started with. It was the Musharrafs, and it was the Fatima Bhuttos, and it was the John Burnses who really, filled in what Mark had talked about before with regards to really trying to have a fair and balanced story. I mean, we knew what we faced working together, that we run the risk of people saying that it would border hagiography. And we worked really hard. Basically, somebody like Musharraf was literally just asked. He was in Philadelphia. We asked him. He said yes. We sat down. We let the camera roll, and he spoke, and he spoke, and he spoke as a man and a politician with a message.
And what about the niece?
Everyone in the family think that she's been terribly poisoned, and they don't blame her for the things she says, and the President Sadari says that in the film. We approached her, we gave her several interviews. You saw that we didn't cut what she said, even things that were terribly unfair and unpleasant, but we wanted to make sure we had a balanced picture.
Do you think you've told the whole story? Do you feel, Duane, how confident do you feel?
I think that it's impossible to tell a story like this. When we started peeling it, is literally like peeling the largest onion in the world. I mean, when we realized the diamond that Mark, that we had stumbled onto, we were halfway and about $1.5 million into the movie. And the diamond is, as I think everybody would agree, that Mark recalled the audio tapes of Benazir that basically have her narrating her story from beyond in this, and I don't think I could imagine, or I don't think anybody who's seen the film could imagine the movie any other way. It's almost as if it was meant to be that way.
And Mark, tell us again how those tapes, those audio tapes came up.
At one point, Duane said to me, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have Benazir narrate her own story? And it sort of, a red light went off in my head, and I remembered that for the first edition of the autobiography, I worked on the second edition with her, but the first edition of the autobiography, the person who worked with her worked off of 50 hours of audio tapes, and those were the old-fashioned junky audio tapes, cassettes, and they were in Sagaponack. The woman is Linda Bird Franke, and she lived in Sagaponack on Long Island in the Hamptons. And I called her, and she said, well, I think that they're up there in the attic, and they were in a shoebox, and they were in terrible shape. They had been eroded by salt water, and great technicians in Hollywood extracted that audio. If they hadn't succeeded, I was going to take it to France to the CIA, because I know they could extract the sound.
And what year was that recorded, or years?
That was in 1988.
In 88. What more would you have liked to put in this film, or do you feel you did everything, Duane, you got everything in there that you wanted ultimately?
That's a great question, and I think one of the interesting things, one of the first things that this audience is seeing, that the audience where we world premiered at Sundance didn't see, is one of the last cards was the outcome of the UN investigation on the assassination of Benazir Bhutto that pointed a very firm, almost unequivocal finger at General Musharraf, and we changed the last card to reflect that. I think one of the things that I wish that I could get in there is what is still coming. This is an unfolding story, as it was from the very beginning of it, and justice is still to come. As you'll notice, the last words there, her murderers are still at large.
What do you want to come from this film? It's going to show on public television across this country.
It's going to open across America commercially in November.
In November.
In theaters. It just got announced today that we've been purchased, and
it's running now in Britain. It's running all over Pakistan. It'll be running all over Europe very soon.
So it'll be seen in the United States and around the
All
world.
across the world.
What do you want to come out of this?
I want people to remember this woman. I want people to remember that Islam is not the caricature that they see on television, that the jihadist view of Islam is not Islam, that there is a modern face and a modern future of Islam. She, to me, will always be irreplaceable, but the values she represented are universal, and I am convinced, just like she told me time and time again, time, justice, and the forces of history are on our side, and I believe that.
What about for you, Duane?
I've said it from the day I decided, along with Mark, to undertake this, that especially to a Western audience, my sole goal was to get it in front of young women, middle-aged women, old women, women in general, and men in general, to be able to say, especially to these girls, that if there is ever a day and that you ever feel like the world is against you, think of Benazir, who comes from a country like this where the world and the law is truly against you. And yet she rose up and succeeded anyway, and if you ever think you can't do it, the more role models like this that we have out there, the better it is for everybody, boys, girls, men, and women. And that, it's about as simple a message as I could ever want to impart.
And finally, we heard what Ambassador Haqqani said he believes is the future of his country. How do you see this film affecting what goes forward from here, whether it's U.S.-Pakistan relations with the rest of the world?
That's a very good question. I hope it's seen. I know there are a lot of people from the State Department here and from other departments of the U.S. government. We made a lot of mistakes in the past in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. We the United States. Coddling dictators has always come back to haunt us. I think we've learned a great deal from that. The fact that we're spending so much money of our resources in the Kerry Lugar on economic aid, on social assistance, on education that we never did before, I think is really remarkable progress. So what do I want to come out of this? I want people to realize that there is an alternative to anarchy, and that in the end, the people of Pakistan are just like the people everywhere else. They want the same things for themselves and the same things for their children, and it's time we help them achieve those goals.
It's a good note to end on. Duane Baughman, Mark Seigel, thank you very much.
Thank you.